Hello, and welcome to another Keylingo live event. My name is Frederick Marks, and I am your host for the next little bit. And today we are doing something new. Maybe you have joined us for some previous live events where we talk about topics in the language services industry, or we do a series that we call Lessons from Leaders. Well, today we are taking a new tact, and we have introduced a new show that we think you're going to like, and we call it Trend Talks. And so what is Trend Talks? This is an opportunity for people that are setting trends in our industry, that are leaders in our industry, that clearly have a voice that is big in our industry, and people love to interact with them. And today, I could not be more excited to have as our first guest on Keylingo Trend Talks, Diego Cresceri. How are you today, Diego?
I'm great. Thank you, Frederick. Excited to be here today. When we were talking, I was thinking, you mentioned leader, people that post that people want to interact with. Let's see. Let's see
Yeah. Well, we
how
we
we came here.
we certainly want people to interact with us. That's what makes these types of shows more interesting. That it's not just you and I talking. And I'm really hopeful that the topic that we're going to talk about gets half as much interest as the post that you put on LinkedIn. Because if it does, then we'll have a great show. But even if it doesn't, selfishly, I'm excited to interact with you, Diego. I've watched you from afar. As you may know, I'm based here in the United States in Atlanta, Georgia, and you're across the ocean in Italy. And by the way, I don't know if you know this about me or not. I lived in Italy for 4 years
Oh, I
as a
didn't know
child.
that.
Yeah, my father was in the Air Force, and he was stationed at a place called Aviano, which is
Yep.
a little bit north of Venice. And so Italy holds a very special place in my heart. Some very wonderful childhood memories that stick with me to this day. As you see, what our amazing production team has put Diego's LinkedIn QR code on the screen. So if you're joining us today in this live event, please check out Diego's LinkedIn, because we're talking about something that we believe is one of the more viral posts that at least I have seen. I'm active on LinkedIn. You're active on LinkedIn. I think your post generated over 400 reactions and close to 150 comments. And it was just super interesting. And so check out Diego's LinkedIn if you haven't done it already. And let me just go ahead and set the stage here. So not too long ago, Diego wrote what he called an open letter to the translation industry. And it clearly touched a nerve. And we are excited to dive more into that. And I think why this show today is relevant, Diego, is that you asked, or you put out kind of a call to the industry for more collaboration, and that collaboration is what is going to get us through what you described as challenging times in our industry. And so I'm excited to dive into that. And this show is evidence of that desire for collaboration from Keylingo's side.
Absolutely. I mean, we are
Yeah.
walking the walk, as you say.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into the questions that I have for you, Diego, maybe there are people out there watching today that don't know you. Would you take a moment and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Okay, I'm Diego. I live in Italy. I founded Creative Words in 2016. I'm in the industry since 2005. Been a long time, getting old. Uh,
We both
and
have the
then,
gray beards.
yeah, absolutely. I don't hide it. What I can say about myself, I'm very exposed for many different reasons. I'm very exposed to people, to other companies, to the freelancers world. And this is how my letter originated, I guess, because I talk with people a lot. I met your Emilia in Turin. I'm very much into networking. This is 50% of what I do in the company, like networking with people and talking with people. So this is how I get to write the letter, I guess.
Yes.
We are basically a single language vendor in Italy.
Okay, that's important.
Other languages,
Uh-huh.
and I have other side things, not so side. I'm in
Yeah.
ALINA, the European Language Industry Association, as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten into the Canadian Language Industry Association as well very recently in the advisory board. I'm involved in many different things. I'm also, the last one is I became a lead expert representing ELIA in the Commission, the European Commission.
Awesome.
I'm really proud.
Well, if anybody is questioning, who is this person? Why is he talking about these matters? I hope that your introduction just gave folks a better idea. Folks, we're talking to a person who has been in our industry for going on 20 years. He is involved in multiple facets of the language services industry. And I don't think you mentioned this in your introduction, but I think you are trained as an interpreter. Is
I
that
am.
correct? Yeah.
This is something I
Okay.
always forget. Yes, I am an interpreter by
Yeah.
education.
So
Yeah.
that's very interesting because I come from a business background and just from a love of language and culture that I've had my entire life since I was a boy in Italy. That was the initial spark of my fascination with language and culture. And so I come at it from the business perspective, entrepreneurial perspective, and you come at it from the language perspective and entrepreneurial perspective. So I think you've got a nice combination of viewpoints here.
I mean, language is my passion. I turned entrepreneur, but I studied a lot to be an entrepreneur because I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So
Yeah.
I would not define myself as a language expert or a language person turning into entrepreneur, by just growing. I wanted
Right.
to become an entrepreneur.
Interesting. And that's a great segue because we've got your company QR code here on the screen now. And now that we know who you are, Diego, tell us a little bit more about Creative Words. Great name, by the way.
Thank you. Well, the story around the name is a little bit weird. Creative Words was what I wanted to create to have a company, not an agency, as Renato would suggest. I wanted a company doing language service and doing creative stuff. How it turned is I got my first job in machine translation, very technical one. So I let go of the creative side of the thing. So I wanted to serve web agencies, marketing companies. Never happened. Never happened.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I was on the market as a single language vendor for Italian. Now we're growing a lot. I have 27 people in my team.
Wow.
In Italy, it's getting quite big in terms of people, at least not revenue. That's another story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very happy because I do feel I have a company. Latest
Yeah.
addition to the team is an innovation lab as well. I'm very proud about it.
Very
That's another
interesting.
story. Yeah,
Yeah.
we offer. Well, I'm thinking of rebranding in a way as content delivery or content management company.
Okay.
We'll touch on that, I guess, as well.
Yes.
I think translation is just becoming a little tiny bit of what we can offer, and this is
Wow.
where I see opportunity.
Very interesting, Diego. Okay, so you know the man, you know a little bit about his company, and now we're going to get into more of the meat of why Diego and I are having this live event today. And we really want this to be an interesting and interactive conversation. So I encourage, if you're watching today, please put some comments on the screen for us. We'd love to interact with you. And as I said before, if we can get just a small fraction of the interactions we got that Diego got on the post itself, we'll have a great conversation today. So Diego, the reason why we are here today is because of this post that you wrote some weeks ago called An Open Letter to the translation industry. And I think that we're going to post it. We're going to post a QR code maybe to the post itself, so everyone can go and check it out. But if you haven't seen it yet, I encourage you to go and read Diego's letter. So Diego, to start off, please tell me, why did you write this letter? What made you feel like this was something that you needed to do?
Well, as I mentioned, I talk with a lot of people, be it companies, freelancers, all sorts of people, and I was kind of feeling something is wrong. Okay, something is, people are suffering in all levels, in any different parts of the supply chain. There's suffering going on, and there is disorientation. And I didn't want to put myself out there as a guru of anything. I'm not a guru of anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt that I needed to sort of ask for more cooperation and offer even a little bit of solidarity. I'm all for sharing. This is how I am. Again, I didn't want to put myself as a guru or save, anyone's life. But I thought that was a conversation I wanted to start. I
Okay.
see many bad things going on. I see fear, I see disorientation, I see people let go, and this is something I don't like. So that was I had no objective actually. It was something that I really felt deep in my heart.
Okay. And thank you, Diego. And the letter is actually quite short. And I want to extract some excerpts from the letter just so people can hear. Maybe they can't see it very well, or they're just not reading it, or they're just hearing about this for the first time. But Diego, you start your letter by saying that we are living in some crazy times, unprecedented. Now, are you referring to this sort of this AI hype or fatigue that everybody is feeling, or is it AI plus something else, or were you thinking about something else entirely when you were talking about crazy times? What specifically did you mean by that?
I think mostly is the AI, but I
Okay.
was more referring to the not to the symptoms. Well, to the symptoms, not to the causes. I see
Okay.
craziness around, but this is not the AI being crazy. It's how we are reacting to it. That is, to me, it's totally crazy. We are, okay, it's been an industry that's always split between freelancers, companies, and buyers. Everybody's fighting against each other. And I don't want to see this anymore. And I think this is exacerbated by AI. But AI is just the causes. It's how we react that is crazy, in my opinion.
Okay. I really want you to maybe, if you can, go a little bit deeper on that, because I have to be honest, here in the United States, we don't really see sort of this, you use the word fighting, and we're not seeing that as, and I know that we're a smaller company like you are, Diego. So I think that we're not a single language vendor. We're an MLV, a multiple language vendor. But I wonder if you could elaborate a little bit more, maybe a story on what is this fighting that you're talking about?
Well, there's in Italy particularly, but I guess it's in Europe, not in Italy only. We have freelancers thinking that agencies or companies are like stealing their jobs, like putting themselves in the middle between end customers and who's doing the job, who's translating effectively.
Okay.
And we
All right.
have companies thinking now that they can replace freelancers, as Michaela was commenting, with AI. And this is something that's going on forever. Particularly in Italy, I see two words that are completely apart. And associations are not helping in any way doing like, building a bridge between these two parts. And of
Okay.
course, we depend on each other. That's the reality. In ELIA, we have an event particularly created for that, to try and build this bridge between these two parts that are really important. We depend on each other. We just need to communicate more and keep talking.
Yeah.
particularly now.
Okay. And by the way, we're getting some very interesting comments from Micaela. And I don't know if you know Micaela or not.
Not in real life,
Okay.
at least.
Well, Micaela, we thank you so much for joining the conversation. We appreciate you, and the comments that you're writing about here. And this is exactly what the comments to your letter were about. In a lot of ways, I see things like lower rates, AI, and then we're having this fighting back and forth. And so it begs the question from my part, because as I mentioned, I don't sense that we're seeing this as much in the US as you seeing it specifically in Italy or in Europe. But tell me, because you're a trained interpreter and so you know the industry from, let's say, an individual perspective, and now you've gone on this entrepreneurial journey where you have a company, what is the value added that an LSP brings to the equation in the language services industry?
Well, I believe that's mostly to do with the sales part of the industry and with the project management part.
Okay. Yeah.
And this is something that usually from the linguists I talk with, they don't want to offer that. They feel fatigued, looking for customers, and they don't
Right.
want to project manage, and they struggle with that as well. So I think
Right.
this is really the value that we offer compared to them. Of course, the
Okay.
linguistic expertise is on them, and I never question that. But it cannot be underestimated that we offer the marketing, the sales part. We are looking for customers, and of course, the more customers we find, the more the more projects we give to our linguists as well. So it's
Right.
that and the project management.
Right. That's great. I always like to think, and I'm not the inventor of this phrase, but Nimsy and other experts in the industry, they talk about the value of an LSP is their ability to manage complexity, and language services projects do come with a lot of complexity a lot of the time. And at least from my perspective, we certainly want to, I mean, we can't do our jobs without the support of freelancers. And so we want to do a very good job of managing that complexity and allowing those freelance language experts to focus on their core competence, which is the translation piece itself.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, think of file prepping. This is also something we do, of course, right? And file prepping
yes.
is something freelancers and linguists complain about. They don't want to prepare files because their job is working on the language. So
Right, right. So I think that we have established that there is a clear role for the LSP and there's a clear role for the freelancer. Where I think that we start to see some trouble is that there's this downward pressure, at least ever since I've been in this industry since 2004, there's been a downward pressure on price. And ultimately, the freelancer is among those that let's say gets hurt by this downward pressure. LSPs too. It's not like we're able to price whatever
exactly.
we want, and then we have to deal with this downward pressure too. But why do you think that exists? The downward pressure on price.
Well, I'm kind of young in the industry, kind of getting older. But if you remember in 2017, when Google Newer was out, we were asked, all of us, to decrease our rates. But we were asked to decrease our rates for a different service. And I guess this is the same that's going on now. We should work together, freelancers and LSPs and even customers, to get out of this word rate thing that we have, and we should try and get more into the customers, into companies, into buyers, and sit at their tables, the leadership table, and really demonstrate the value that we can offer.
Yeah.
Because if we
I
keep thinking of word rate, this is not going to change
yeah.
at all.
I agree with you. And I'd like to add something else to the conversation that sometimes I think is a challenge. And I think that part of our job as owners of LSPs is to honor the job that freelancers do. And and when I say honor, what I mean by that is to do our job well. And you
Yeah,
mentioned yourself when I asked you, what is the value that LSPs bring to the table? And one of the words that you said was sales. And I'm a huge believer in doing a good job in sales. And I think, maybe I'm going to get some pushback from the industry on this, hopefully not from freelancers, but I think that we have to do a good job of selling the value of what we do. And if we don't, they're just going to say, well, sell it for a lower price. And then we
absolutely.
end up, we end up just lowering our price to freelancers. But in my mind, if we do an excellent job of sales and demonstrating the value that we bring, then we should be able to charge a fair price for what we're offering to the end customer. And that should leave plenty of room for us to give a fair wage to, to freelancers. So my conclusion, the point that I'm trying to make is that I think there are some LSPs out there. I don't know who they are, but I do think that some of us just, you know, we just accept that, okay, you want to pay this. Wait a second. Let's have an education process about what it is that we're doing and the people involved in this people involved in this work, the technology that's involved in this work.
Mhm.
All of these things require investment. And some companies are not going to be willing to make that investment. Some companies are. And we try to focus at Keylingo on those companies that value the work that we do and are willing to make an investment in that work. And they're going to get a ton of value from the work that we do. And as a result of making the appropriate, fair investment in the work that we're providing to the end client, that gives us a better ability to pay a fair wage to freelancers. And nobody benefits by this constant downward pressure on price. Nobody
Absolutely.
benefits. So LSPs, if you're listening out there, I think that we all need to work very, very hard to do a better job of selling. We had on our last episode, Kristen Gutierrez, who wrote Be a Better Sales Leader. And I believe in all my heart in what she's doing and so many others that are trying to help us be better salespeople. And I think that that's an often overlooked element of the value that LSPs are supposed to bring to the table, that we sometimes just accept that customers want to pay this,
Yeah.
when in actuality they need us, and freelancers need us to do this as well, to do a better job of showing customers what our value is. Can you
Uh,
talk a
uh,
little bit to that?
yeah, I do agree. I want to add that probably if we want to show the value, we should really stop presenting ourselves as translation companies. I mean, we are much more than that. If you think translation, if I go to my daughter, she's 12, and I say, look, do you want to be a translator? She would say, no, never. We have Google for that.
Yeah.
My last Galaxy phone has that integrated, embedded in my phone. I don't need that. So
Yeah.
we on both sides, I mean, freelancers and LSPs, we should stop, and even universities as well, the academia, it's really important that we should stop talking about translation. We don't offer translation. Translation is replaceable, yes, but our language expertise is really not. I get
Okay.
applications every day by translators. You know what? They don't catch my attention because it's translation. If you offer more than that, and it could be AI or not AI, it could be even just transcreation, but translation by itself is not enough anymore. And this is how it goes. I mean, it's progress, I guess.
Yeah.
And this needs to be changed. The narrative needs to be changed, and we need to rebrand our industry.
Yeah. I really like that phrase, and we use it a lot. the management of complexity, because when you're a single language vendor, so maybe you collaborate with other LSPs when you encounter projects that have lots of different languages. But we have customers here in the US that want to sell their products and services in the EU, and we're talking about dozens of languages. Then that in and of itself is complexity. You throw in there software tags that need to be separated from text that needs to be translated, or complicated file types, or super tight deadlines that require you to be adaptable with the types of teams that you're using. There are a lot of different things that we could go into that are complex when it comes to language services projects. So that, I think, like you said, we need to be very clear with our customers what the value is that we're delivering. Absolutely. Okay, so back to your post for a moment, Diego. Did you expect the reaction that you got from this post?
Not at all. I was not expecting that. As I said, I had no objective really. It was something that I felt the urge to publish because I was feeling it, and I'm always very spontaneous on what I post. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I feel good in being spontaneous all the time. And I was not expecting those reactions. I might have foreseen some reactions on the freelancer side because of this fight that I was mentioning that we have, at least here. But no, I was not expecting such reactions. And I got many on the LSP side as well that I was not expecting, honestly.
Yeah. I noticed some themes in the post, like in the very early comments. I noticed there were some freelancers that this letter touched a nerve with, that I found it a little bit interesting, because your letter specifically states that we need to come together and we need to share insights and address common concerns. And I don't think that you were just talking about LSPs there, were you? I think you were talking about everybody, right?
Even freelancers are LSP, they provide language services. So
if you look at exactly, that acronym stands for Language Services Provider, which encompasses Keylingo, Creative Words, Micaela here, that's providing some great feedback. Thank you so much, Micaela. I would just like to, state again, we want your feedback, good, bad, ugly, whatever. Please send us more comments. It makes the conversation interesting. So there were these themes of freelancers, that some of which were upset. And then, I noticed some comments that were very supportive of you. They were saying that this was a brave post, that I couldn't agree with you more, things like that. Like, as you were reading these comments at first, and then the support came later, like what was going through your mind?
Well, as I said, I was not expecting so much feedback. I could have foreseen some harsh feedback from freelancers. But at the end of the day, I don't really care. It's still a good conversation sparker, I think.
Absolutely.
And well, I got harsher feedback even on other posts that I did and other events that I took part in. But it's still good to talk about these things. It's still good. And we do have our own plane, I guess, on the LSP side. Probably there's something to fix or to change on the freelancer side as well. It's just a matter of sitting at the same table. And I took part in an event. I was speaking at an event for an Italian association in maybe 2 weeks ago. And one of the LSP taking part brought 20 of our own freelancers. And it was amazing, because this is what we should do. We should sit together and talk together, because we are on the same boat. Actually, it's not, I mean, it's not fighting that we will get anywhere. We need to sit
Right.
and talk.
No, I agree with you. You know, this is a good segue to my next question, Diego. I saw in some of the comments, one in particular that comes to mind. I don't want to mention the person's name, but they came right out and said that there are too many people in the industry, that the industry is crowded. They use the word crowded, and you responded to that comment. You said that you agree, and I wonder if we could dive into that a little bit more. Do you in fact think that the language services industry is overcrowded? And if so, where does that come from?
I mean, the market is very fragmented, and both on the LSP side and on the freelancer side, there's probably too many average entities. So yeah, it is like that, in my opinion. When I started translation, it was 100 students for a year, just in 1 year. That's it.
Wait,
I don't know how you call it in English. 100 students.
100 in what? In university?
In university, sorry, yes. It was
Where
just
you
100
went
students.
to, okay. And now?
So you had to pass a test to get in. Now I see many universities, again, I'm referring to the Italian market, there are thousands of students. So there are thousands of graduated below average students every year. And this is creating this crowded marketplace that we have.
It's
the
very
same
interesting.
is with companies. The same with companies. There are a lot of companies that are being created by linguists 40 years ago, and they are trying to survive. Maybe in your language you call them bureaus, or I don't know. It's just an agglomerate of linguists, but this is not a company. And I think we need more companies and less of these teams, or I don't know how to call them. It is a crowded market in any case, but the request for language services has never been higher, I think.
Yeah.
And I can expand on that as well.
Yeah, I want you to. There seems to be a lot of different things going on, some of which that I find are contradictory. So, for example, this growth from 100 students to thousands of students over that same period of time, prices have gone down. So the average earnings of a freelancer or a linguist is going down. So why would more and more people want to go to university to study language and become linguists if the amount that you can earn continues to go down? Why do you?
It's the other way around. Other prices going down because we have too many linguists, we have too many companies. Is it a demand offer matter or not? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
But my school used to be much more professionalizing. Do you say that?
Okay.
I mean, very much more practical rather than what I see today. I'm involved in a couple of committees of two different universities, very different, one from the other, but I don't see that practical approach that we need, the technical approach in our industry.
Okay. Well, when I was looking at joining this industry in the early 2000s, I was living in Chile at the time, and I was exposed to language services as a result of the job that I was doing. We had contracts and technical documents that needed translation, and I found it hard to find a good partner. And so my interest got sparked, let's say. And it's always been an industry that has relatively low barriers to entry. And it's always been a profession that I think the average person undervalues. Let's say they think that the average person, I think, often believes that if you can speak another language, then you can be a professional translator. And so once again, we have this kind of education gap. And, I always, as I'm sure you get too, when you're at social events, because I know you're a social person and you bump into somebody who doesn't know anything about the language services industry and they say, oh, that's interesting that you do that. I thought Google did that. And you have to do this, this explanation that I've had to do a million times in my career when, I'm usually the only one at a cocktail party that's in the language services industry. So I have to do that. I have to do that explanation. But I still question, like, I haven't seen Nimsy, for example. And if you're out there, Renato, maybe you can do a report on this. I'm sure a lot of people would be interested. It's like, is the language services industry overcrowded? Yes or no? Like, I haven't seen any real data on that. I've seen like anecdotes and people saying, yes, it's overcrowded, but the reality could be something very different, I think. Like, the reality could be that there's a feeling that it's overcrowded, but really what is causing that feeling is not the fact that it actually is, but that maybe prices are going down because we're not doing the sales job that we could be doing, or any number of other things. So I guess I
was
would
in my
just
lunch break today, and I saw a post on Facebook in the translators group, and someone was posting, I've been studying English for 5 years. How can I start translating? You should have seen the reactions by their colleagues. And she was not a translator. I do think it's overcrowded, even by these things, and also on the customer side.
Okay.
I mean, they think, Uncle Joe can do the translation because he spent 20 days in England when it was 20. And this is happening. I mean, it happens all the time in Italy as well.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I think, again, the volumes are out there. The services we can provide are enormous.
Yeah.
And the demand is growing, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I accept that you believe that it's overcrowded.
Michael as well.
I believe that the jury is still out on that. Maybe we'll find out some actual data at some point, but you're very knowledgeable about the industry. So I put a lot of weight on what you say.
That's my experience. I'm not knowledgeable. I have my experience in my own industry, in my own country. That's it.
So let's switch topics for a second, because I know that a lot of people are fearful of AI, and that AI has been a buzzword in our industry for, over a year now. And, actually, Maria Emilia Maesterrena, who who works at Keylingo, is going to be doing a talk at Lokeworld in Dublin about AI. So I encourage everybody to check that out. I'm sure the video will be available afterward. But do you think that the language services industry is different from any other industry that's being impacted by technology? Or do you think do you feel like we're especially vulnerable to technology as opposed to other industries, which I'll give you an example of in a moment. So go ahead.
Well, when I first heard about Gen AI last year, it was in February, in Italy, at least in February, and I read the OpenAI report. I think translation was amongst the most threatened jobs in their report. I think it had 80% of probability of being replaced by AI. It was on top of the list.
What
I think
list was this?
Many other industries that are threatened.
What list was this? Could you repeat the list?
The first time I talked with my team about the AI and Gen AI was in March last year, and I presented that report. So I guess it has to be in February or January last year.
Okay. Now, taking that comment into a little bit deeper sense, one of the comments to your post was that two of the things that customers will never, let's say, put less weight on are quality and turnaround time. And I think that one of the things that we're seeing in the European market, and you're there, so you can speak to this. There's a lot of security concerns around AI in Europe, and actually, I think less so here in the United States. So if there's a vulnerability gap between the US and Europe, I would say that the US, at least on the surface, seems more vulnerable. But what do you know about this vulnerability in terms of these other factors that could limit the use of AI, like security and quality, things like that?
Well, I think we are focusing more on the vulnerability side because we fear the technology. Honestly, I don't think. I mean, even with the MT, I remember people were afraid of using DeepL at the beginning because it was online and you didn't know what would happen with your data. But the same source content was already published on the website, maybe. So it's. I don't really believe this should be our biggest concern, honestly. Quality, well, depends on what you mean about quality. Is quality is in the eyes of the beholder, right? I mean, there's content that needs to be top quality. There is content that needs to be enough quality, and that's it.
Right.
Turnaround
Yeah, yeah.
times are really more important, I think. And same with MT. There's a lot of content that doesn't need to go through a professional workflow, and that's enough. I mean, this content that would be, stored in the closet and never be translated if with no AI or no MT. And this is the same as 8 years ago now. So
yeah. And just adding on to that, are you a believer that AI and other technologies like them, do you believe that they increase the pie? Like, let's say the market is this, then AI comes along, the market is this plus something else. Are you a believer in that, or are you more a believer in that? Okay, AI is now here, and this is like the amount of work is now shrunk. Let's say.
it seems we prepared this question because I have the perfect answer. I have an example. I have a company, they've been doing AI, Gen AI or content generation based on AI since several, like 5 years, I think, already. So much before Gen AI was a thing for us common people. They bought a translation company in Italy last year, and they are looking to buy other companies, and they are entering our market, which means we have more competitors, but the pie is getting much bigger. In fact, what we've been trying to do since last year, or what we've been doing actually, is getting the content creation industry, which is much, much bigger, as my friend Konstantin Drank said in one of his beautiful posts. I mean, the translation industry is this big. The content industry is that big. And we are part of a much bigger industry. Much, much bigger. And this is very exciting, honestly. Yeah. And this has to do with linguists. Even the translators can access a much, much bigger industry. This is what I'm trying to preach every time I get to talk. Yeah. They have many more opportunities. Of course, different things, but still very exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very, very exciting. And we're right at 45 minutes, Diego. And you've been very generous with your time, and we need to wrap it up. It flew by because it's so interesting to talk to you and talk about your work. And I want to thank Chad Richardson for his very interesting comment that he added to the conversation. And Micaela, of course, thank you so much for commenting and making this an interesting conversation with Diego. And Diego, I just want to kind of leave you with this thought and get your closing comments on this, because I feel very passionate about what I'm about to say. I believe that we will do better as an industry, LSPs, freelancers, no matter what, if we maintain a mindset of abundance versus a mindset of scarcity. And you just shared how the market, I mean, the translation market's this, the content market is this. A mindset of abundance will take you to new places and cause you to learn new things, meet new people. And so I, for one, as a longtime member of this industry, and you are too, I would just like to encourage anyone out there listening to adopt an abundance mindset. And I would just like to close with your final comment on what you think about abundance versus scarcity.
I'm totally aligned with that. Again, I think people might think we have paired this, but I'm totally aligned with that. We should adopt this mindset. We should replace fear with vision and with positivity. Absolutely. Fear is not getting us anywhere. We should really face it. I was awake this morning at 4 for some reason, and I opened my Instagram. Nothing better to do, I guess, at 4 a.m. And I saw this video from Bruce Willis, you know, the actor.
Yes.
Explaining why skydiving, let's do skydiving, by the way, is really a lessons of life, because you get there, the door will open and you will see, you know, void. And you are, I don't know, 12,000 feet. And you need to jump. And after 1 second, fear, you get rid of fear, and it's all excitement and enjoying the journey. And that's really the metaphor I would like to leave you here. We should abandon fear and you know, have fun, enjoying the journey. I think it's going to be a great journey, a lot of opportunities if we want to embrace them. If we don't, then let's just decide we don't want to embrace them. At least this closing thought is, let's think about the people we have in our companies and the people we support. Could be our freelancers network or the team we have. If we are not ready to embrace this change, let's do something with the companies to take care of them as well. Not just, you know, get rid of them.
Awesome. Diego, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Creative words. Thank you so much. And replace scarcity with abundance, replace fear with vision. We'll leave you with that. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to follow Diego, follow Creative Words, check out Keylingo, follow us as well. And we'll see you on the next Keylingo Trend Talks, or a separate live event coming soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.